This is the lowest point. The lowest point, December 21st, on the solar side of the cosmic body. And this is where they got most people right now. At their lowest point, they come in with this whack story about Acer, who's Santa Claus or Odin, and who's basically Acer is Oz, the Wizard of Oz, and the whole Germanic mind control system that few have let go of since they've been in this since they were kids. Because Grimm, you look at the name, Jacob Grimm and his brother, put all this stuff together. If you read Jacob Grimm, right, you just go Google Grimm brothers, right? That's Mother Goose and Grimm, okay? So Grimm, just to give you some brief history, he states that the male figure who appeared in it was a survival of folk beliefs about the Wotan god. Okay, so Grimm, when having to comment about what was going on with this story that he was putting together, that later on became known as Christmas and Santa Claus, he said that this is about a male figure who appeared and has survived from all folk beliefs, and this is about the god Wotan. And somehow Wotan lost his social character, lost his sociable character. This means that no one would want to be around this being. And his near familiar features, meaning he lost actually looking even like a human being. This is why he's always depicted horned. He's the god of the witches. That's Herne, the hunter. And he assumed the aspect of a dark, dreadful power, a specter and a devil. This is exactly what Jacob Grimm says about the Santa Claus tale. Then it goes on and says, the Wild Hunt is a European folk myth involving a ghostly and supernatural group of huntsmen passing in wild pursuit. So these are specters, ghosts, gods, if you may, hunting at a specific time. If this ain't Halloween, it's Christmas. And these hunters may be either elves, Santa's always got his elves, or fairies, or the dead. Meaning people who are still chained to this consciousness and perspective of how to live, this death culture. Okay, so it goes on. Seeing the wild hunt was thought to presage something catastrophic, such as war or a plague, or at best the death of the one who witnessed it. Meaning even celebrating it and conceiving it and seeing it as a part of your consciousness would somehow cause either a war or a plague or even death for the person who did that. Now, I'm reading this right out of Grimm's works and right out of Wikipedia. I'm not making this up. So it goes on. It says, people encountering the hunt might also be abducted to the underworld or the fairy kingdom, even their children. You see, so they're telling you they're coming after your kids. In some instances, it was also believed that people's spirits could be pulled away during their sleep to join the cavalcade. So they're showing you this is hyperdimensional, baby. This is not, they're not playing games with you. They're coming to get your kids. And guess what? They got your kids. Most people, they got their kids. You see, so why everyone thinks it's a game and, here comes Santa Claus. Ho, ho, ho. I'm calling you slaves, calling all slaves. Bring your kids to me because I'm about to sell them illusion. So what is the illusion? So let's go on. So the brothers Grimm, this is their story. So they protested the king of Hanover, okay, because they had some other beefs going on. And then they were banished from the kingdom of Hanover. So they lived as actually banished for a long time until they were invited by the king of Prussia to move into Berlin, in which they could become members of the Academy of Sciences. So if you've joined the university, you'll remember that in Deprogramming 101, we talked about the Prussian society actually being the most instrumental society to creating what we call the modern curriculum and the educational system. That the actual education system in the United States is Prussian. There was no such thing as a master's degree or a doctor's degree before the Prussian system was moved in as a curriculum by Horace Mann. Okay, and the backdrop of this is during the Persian War, which they lost. Once the war was over, the king came in, Parliament, and everyone else, and said, "Well, why did we lose the war?" And he said, "Well, what's happening is our citizens are too independent. Our soldiers, when we commanded them to go and die, they didn't go. So we need to formulate another system that actually starts when they're children to allow them to be obedient to the king. So that way, when we send them to die, that they go and die." And that's how the modern educational system was started. Do your own research. Check it out. It's all Prussian. So this means also that that's kind of known knowledge, that the Prussian system developed our modern educational system. But what is unknown is that Brothers Grimm were back there creating the largest dictionary to date with turning the language dark. It actually says this in Wikipedia, that they were fascinated with how English could be bent into a dark aspect. And then they began to create these tales, hence the tales of Mother Goose and Grimm, which are like the fathers and mothers of all the rest of the tales that have come out in modern day. Okay, so we're coming into the next break in the last quarter. Probably won't even get a chance much for questions because there's still a chunk of the message. But again, this is what it is. This is the real truth. Whether a person can handle it or not, my duty, responsibility is just to bring it. So we're going to go on this break and come forward, and we're going to get into this last part because, this is how it is. You have to know, because as we talked about, knowing is half the battle, and it's only half because you still got to make the decision. You got to make the choice. All right, we're forward and we're at that final half. So let's get to it. Let's just finish these goons. So anyway, so what this is about is, so you got the elves, and so obviously that Santa, Odin, or Wotan has these minions, and the reindeer are actually cognates of what's known as Sleipnir, or Old Slippy. It's an eight-legged horse that's the child of Odin. The child of Loki, the trickster god, and that Sleipnir actually mostly rides through the location of hell. So, and then in this case, the word hell actually means one who covers up or hides. So this is a major part of this, just so you understand the complete level of this folklore, is that all the symbolism is there. Santa has the elves. The elves are the minions. They're actually the dark forces that come out at night, because notice Santa always rolls at night, and then starts to torment the child's mind. See, because you don't have any idea. See, we're so out of touch. We don't even have any idea what our children are experiencing. We just think that because we've introduced this concept of them getting these gifts, that in their subconscious mind that everything is okay. But meanwhile, there's a lie, an illusion weeding itself into their consciousness, and it's going on over a certain period. So you'll start to see strange behavior from them. You'll start to see things that you won't actually be able to relate to. Something is what you would see as, oh, it's great as Santa Claus, but you won't even, that's how it works. We talked about it earlier. You see a symbol, you don't know what that symbol means, and then all of a sudden things are happening, and because you can't define the symbol, just because you can't define the folklore, doesn't mean it doesn't have an effect. In fact, it's designed for you not to be able to actually interpret what it really is, and often to interpret it opposite to what it really is. That's what makes everything backwards. So again, the reindeer, they're actually cognates of the children or the child of Loki. And most people already know the story about Loki, the trickster god. So Santa or Wotan comes riding on the trickster god's child that generally rides only through the location of hell. Hell as in Hel. And this word etymologically means, in the Norse tradition, one who covers up or hides something. So this sets further the actual context of the whole ritual, which is to cover up or to hide something. So Santa's true identity, if you want to find it, and I'll just type it right here, and you can go and Google it, is Krampus, Krampus. Just like God says, oh, I do both good and evil. There's a other, on most coins have two sides. Coin is another word that means king. There's two sides to the king. So this means, just like the Bernie Sanders, there's this nice side, and then like the George Bush, there's this other side, and they all make up the same being. So Krampus is the other side of Santa. And then when you look at Krampus, you'll find that Krampus is actually the horn god of the witches. And this is who Santa is. Santa is a priest king. Okay? He comes from the North Pole. So let me show you how it all works replete. The ritual is, it comes from the North Pole. This is the north point of the head. It comes down the chimney. So first it goes from the consciousness in the mind down the chimney. Okay? So anytime we're talking about houses, we're talking about your body. So the chimney then is your spine. So when it comes down the chimney, what's at the bottom of the chimney? The fireplace. What's at the bottom of your spine? The root chakra, your fireplace. Okay? So it lands in the root chakra, right? And then gives gifts, right? So then the child is made to believe this fanciful tale that this being is going to come basically into their house, down into their spine, into their root chakra, and give them some gift or power, because gifts are power. Now, we all know that the gift, let me show you how deep this is. The gift comes from the parent, but right away, there's a role replaceal. Instead of the child believing that the power of life came from their parents, the power is switched to coming from Santa. And that's as simple as it is, because once that switch is made, now you've deceived. You've taken part in the deception. See, some people, they think it's not even, it doesn't matter. They're like, well, shit, this doesn't matter. It's Christmas. No kid cannot have Christmas. You're a Scrooge. Mind control. And it's got most people in its grips, and they don't even know. It doesn't work like, oh, well, okay, I already know that this is a rapist, so I'm going to keep these rapists away from my kids. It works that this is a rapist. It's sitting your kids on its lap. Some old man that doesn't actually bear the appearance anymore of even a physical being. It has been outcast from society because the king has always served a role of being against the people. The king has always enslaved the people. These are facts. Read your own history if you can even still remember your own history. So how this works is that the child is made to believe that the power and gifts come from the king. Role replaceal. So from that point, the entire story is built on this deception. And then this sets them up yearly for a continuous mind control program of servitude to the king. So that way, when in the future, when they come across the codes, the dialects, the edicts, the creeds, the bulls, the culture, the religion of the king, they will bow down because they will believe that that's where their power comes from, not their ancestor, even their most recent ancestor, their parents. They will disrespect you for deceiving them. All of that will take place and you won't even know what's going on. And then people wonder, well, why is Johnny so bad? Like, what's wrong with him? And it's because you deceived him or her. And that's how it works. And we don't understand that. Like, that's why I just wrote and erased it when I wrote it in the chat box because the thing reset. But most people know this to some degree or another. But it won't change what they go and do because that's what mind control is. Mind control is the control of the mind. It means that it allows you to think certain things, but not make any actions. That's mind control. And anyone who speaks against this is called the Scrooge. So there is a lock on this, meaning that in the consciousness, there's a lock on anyone trying to actually let someone out of this path. A person has to actually let themselves out. On the side where I'm at, there's no keyhole. I only can speak to the person about this, but they have to put the key in and let themselves out of this path of this deception that they've been entwined in most of the time since they were kids. And this is why it becomes so difficult because it's run several courses. So you actually have to go so deep into your own consciousness to uproot it. It often becomes too deep. You see, like the person, I don't know, man, this is just way far off, man. Like just Santa's now the Satan. Like maybe that's just a screw up with the words. Like, and he's red. I know he's red, but that doesn't mean that he's just the devil. Like I know he comes down the chimney, but to say that that's the root chakra at the bottom and that's hell. I mean, but it's all there. In fact, it's more of that there than the lies of what they say, the gifts and all this kind of stuff. But think about it. This is just something to let you know what's going on. So let's switch the note. here because switch the frequency, because this is not the way we want to end or begin anything. That's why I didn't end or begin the message with, oh, Claus. But just remember, Claus is digging its claws into most of our seeds until we become aware of this kind of thing. And I'll just be one of those people that stand in history as a Scrooge to the king, because I already understand and understand and overstand the game. Okay. And that's why I'm out of the game. I don't play games with my own soul. You see, so that's what this is about. Do you want to play games with your soul? Are you soulless now? You're going to get sold onto this whole thing about this story that's fake, or are you going to go back to your culture or forward to your culture and to start picking yourself up so you could be innovative, new, and create another path for yourself, because it's your responsibility. And if you allow someone to do it for you, i.e. the king and the rest of the parliament and the minions and elves and slaves that are all tied into it, then so be it. But let it be known that that's your decision. And so when whatever befalls you, or anyone else that's involved in this kind of structure, if you heard the message today, that's why they say it's worst for a person who's actually learned all of this and then still making the same mistakes rather than someone who didn't know it at all, because at least they're free of actually the torment in their own consciousness that they could actually have chose to self-substantiate themselves. Now, I still said, though, it is a walk uphill. So don't imagine, or it's a run uphill and up Mount Meru. Don't imagine that this is going to be easy for you to just go and either approach others and even approach your own consciousness and get ready to start weaning it out. But you have to be ready for that battle. That's why it's a soul war. They're not playing with you. Why we, namaste, love and light, there's no enemies. Okay, keep believing that, even though you watch as people perish. This is a real thing that's going on. It's affecting our children. It's affecting our consciousness. So at no point can we actually think that this is a game as they would want us to believe that it is.